Rowan Mayfair, a neurosurgeon who sliced through chaos with a scalpel's precision. A woman who birthed a being so ancient, so dangerous, it unraveled her world. This is the story of how a scientist became the mother of a myth and paid a price that broke her. She was the 12th witch in a cursed bloodline, the final thread in a tapestry woven with magic, betrayal, and whispered promises. Rowan never craved the legacy, the visions, the weight of a family she didn't know. She sought control, clean MRIs, sterile operating rooms, the elegant logic of the human brain. But then, whispers crept into her mind, voices she couldn't trace, knowledge she hadn't earned. Therefore, she tried to shut them out. Yet her curious mind, trained to dissect, to understand, couldn't resist the pull. The truth was brutal. Rowan wasn't just brilliant, she was chosen. Born in San Francisco, raised by her adoptive mother, Ellie, Rowan grew up shielded from the Mayfair legacy. Ellie's silence was a fortress, built not from neglect, but from fear. She knew the Mayfair name carried a curse, one that had claimed Rowan's biological mother, Deirdre. Deirdre's story haunts Rowan's. A young woman with visions, locked away by her Aunt Carlotta, drugged into silence, her life stolen before Rowan was born. Therefore, when Ellie succumbed to cancer, and Deirdre followed, catatonic, wasted, gone, the seal on Rowan's destiny cracked. Something ancient stirred. Rowan is a battlefield. Mind against myth, logic against legacy, science against sorcery. Enter Michael Curry, a man whose own collision with fate mirrors Rowan's. Michael was a contractor, a dreamer, until he drowned off the coast of San Francisco. Rescued, revived, he woke with a gift, or a curse. His hands could read objects, see memories, know truths. Like Rowan, he was a skeptic, thrust into the supernatural. Their meeting wasn't chance, it was a thread in the Mayfair tapestry. Together, they were drawn to New Orleans, to the decaying mansion on First Street, to a presence that had haunted the family for centuries. Lasher. Who is Lasher? That question consumed Rowan the moment she stepped into the Mayfair home. He wasn't just a ghost. He was a force, seductive, cunning, woven into the blood of every Mayfair witch. The Talamasca, a secret order of scholars who tracked the Mayfairs from the shadows, had documented Lasher's influence for generations. Their files spoke of Suzanne, the first witch, who summoned him in a Scottish village, of Deborah, burned at the stake, of Anther, driven to madness. Lasher was no mere spirit. He was ambition given form. Therefore Rowan didn't flee. She studied him, dissected him with a surgeon's cold curiosity. But then she let him closer. Too close. Lasher had waited for her. 12 generations of witches. Suzanne, Deborah, Anther, Deirdre, each one a stepping stone. Each one twisted, used, broken. Rowan was the culmination. Brilliant, powerful. Her psychic gifts were unmatched, her will a fortress. She was the vessel Lasher needed to cross from spirit to flesh. But he couldn't be born without her consent, or her deception, and he deceived her. Lasher wove a web of power and promises. Therefore, Rowan rose. She claimed the Mayfair legacy, rebuilt the family's empire, poured her fortune into medical research to understand her own gifts. She blended her scientific mind with the magic she could no longer deny, dominating a world that both feared and revered her. But then, cracks formed. Isolation crept in. Lasher's whispers grew louder, his presence a shadow in her mind. The Talamasca watched, their journals noting her growing unease, warning of the danger. Rowan was losing herself. Then came the pregnancy. It wasn't human. It wasn't natural. Rowan sensed its wrongness from the start, a rapid, painful growth that defied biology. She hadn't consented to conception, yet something grew inside her, fueled by Lasher's cunning. He wasn't just being born, he was consuming her. Still, she believed she could outsmart him, that her logic, her strength, could bend this force to her will. She was wrong. Lasher emerged, a being of flesh, an infant with ancient eyes, the culmination of centuries of magic, manipulation, and blood. Rowan was left hollow, a mother to something she couldn't comprehend. What makes her tragic isn't just the betrayal. It's that she knew she was being used, and still hoped to win. After Lasher's birth, Rowan unraveled. Therefore, she fled with him, hiding in the wilderness, desperate to understand what she'd unleashed. Michael followed, torn between love and fear, his own gifts useless against Lasher's power. Lasher grew, not in years, but in days. His hunger was insatiable. More power, more control, more blood. Rowan saw the truth. Lasher wasn't her salvation. He was the end of the Mayfairs. Here, science failed her. The scalpel couldn't cut away her fate. Logic crumbled against legacy. Every witch before her had believed they could control Lasher. Suzanne, who summoned him with a spell. Deborah, who burned for her power. Anther, who leapt from a window to escape him. They were wrong. Rowan knew this. And yet, she was different. She broke the cycle. Rowan didn't kill Lasher with her hands. That would have been too simple. Instead, she defied him. She refused to let him consume her family, her legacy, her soul. In Lasher, her actions, her will, her sacrifice, set the stage for his eventual downfall, though not by her direct hand. She rejected his promises, his seduction, his claim on her bloodline. And in that rejection, she shattered the curse that had bound the Mayfairs for centuries. Let that sink in. Rowan Mayfair, the 12th witch, the neurosurgeon, the mother, ended a cycle no one else could. Not with a blade, not with rage, but with grief. A grief so deep it broke her. The Talamasca's records note the aftermath. Rowan returned to First Street, a shell of herself. Michael stayed, haunted by his role. The Mayfair legacy continued, but it was different, lighter. The air no longer hummed with Lasher's presence. What do we take from Rowan's story? Knowledge isn't always power. Sometimes it's a wound that never heals. Rowan began as a woman of reason, a surgeon who trusted precision. She ended as a myth, a warning, a wound. Yet, maybe, a hero. By defying Lasher, she gave the Mayfairs a chance to heal, a chance no one else could offer. So, who is Rowan Mayfair? She's the woman who faced a demon and lost everything. But she's also the woman who faced a legacy and won. Though she walks away broken, bleeding, alone, she walks away free. Free from Lasher. Free from prophecy. Free from the seductive lie that power is worth any price. Rowan's story isn't neat. It's raw, tragic, human. That's why it haunts us. It's not just about witches or spirits. It's about choice. About the cost of knowing too much. About the strength it takes to say no when the world demands yes. Let's weave in the Talamasca one last time. They watched Rowan from afar, their journals filled with awe and dread. They saw her as the end of an era, not just for the Mayfairs, but for Lasher's long game. They wrote of her strength, her sacrifice, her refusal to bend. And they wondered, what comes next for a woman who broke a curse but paid with her soul? Michael's story, too, deserves a thread. He loved Rowan, followed her into the darkness, and emerged scarred but alive. His hands, once cursed with visions, grew quiet after Lasher's fall. But he never left her side. His loyalty, his own defiance of fate, mirrors Rowan's in its quiet way. And Deirdre, her shadow lingers. She was the mother Rowan never knew, the witch who couldn't fight back. Her silence, her suffering, fueled Rowan's resolve. In breaking the cycle, Rowan honoured her, even if she never knew it. In the end, Rowan Mayfair wasn't the last of the witches. She was the first to break the chain. And that makes her the most powerful of them all.